Millions of tonnes of inferior foreign products, mainly from China, are on their way to be dumped on our supermarket shelves. In a moment, we'll tell you what products they are. But the constant flood of imports has led to a national push to force all supermarkets to set up country of origin aisles. So simply, if it's from China, then it's placed in the Made in China aisle. If it's local, it's placed in a Made in Australia aisle, and so on. So as Laura Sparks reports, the gloves are now off in the import food invasion.
A lot of the produce that comes into our country does not meet the high standards of our produce.
When you don't know how something's grown, or where it's grown, or what ingredients went into it, then you should be very scared to buy some of that product.
It's coming. Millions of tonnes of imported product. Apples, pears, vegetables, grapes and juices about to be dumped here. Our own local produce pushed aside for the latest wave of inferior food, often laced with banned chemicals and bacteria.
I think we have too much of it. I mean, why do we import an orange 6 months old sometimes when it's sold in the shop, ripened by chemicals?
And only 5% of it is tested by our quarantine inspectors. The rest just simply floods in.
The fear we have, of course, is 95% is not being tested. We don't know what's in that. We can be suspicious. And the figures are huge. It's 95% of 500 billion.
Ian Harrison is the Chief Executive of Made in Australia. They're ramping up the war against foreign food.
What we want the shopper to be aware of is that if you buy produce that's not Australian grown, then you should be thinking a bit about how it is grown.
Last year, in imported Chinese food, they found the banned chemical malachite green. In fact, 75% of Chinese foods failed our testing regulations for iodine. Food coming from Thailand tested positive for the antibiotic fluoroquinolone. And some Italian food tested positive for the dangerous bacteria E. coli.
They've got chemicals and components in there that we simply don't allow our producers to use that material and those chemicals. And so, yes, we were surprised. We think people will be surprised.
Last night, we revealed the truth about orange and apple juices sold on the supermarket shelves. 3 juices we tested were found to have low levels of fungicide. The fact that traces of the chemicals were found at all worries apple grower and juicer David Gartrell.
If it's there present in the juice, I think the chemical has probably been overused.
Would you expect to find that fungicide in any Australian juice?
No, I wouldn't. I'd be very alarmed if I found it in any of the Australian juices.
Frozen vegetables were no better. We found chemicals either banned or under review in Australia in 3 bags of frozen vegetables. 2 were imported. Tasmanian farmer Mike Badcock.
This is quite a serious risk, I believe, to the Australian public.
The latest push is for supermarkets to change the way they pack, instead organising each aisle in terms of the country where the products are from. So there'd be a Made in China aisle, one for Italy, one for Brazil, and of course a Made in Australia aisle, where products only made and grown here can be sold.
An Australian-made aisle would make it very easy for shoppers. We know that consumers tell us that they find it hard to recognise and identify Aussie product and produce.
If I was walking into a supermarket and there was the Australian-made aisle and the overseas aisle, I would never go into the overseas aisle.
But it's not just food the Made in Australia campaign is pushing. Gerry Harvey has committed to selling Australian-made furniture.
60% of the product in a Harvey Norman store should be Australian-made product. The other 40% can come from anywhere in the world. Now, most of our opposition have 100% imported product on the floor and no Australian product.
China's most recent food scandals include the contaminated baby milk formula and exploding watermelons sprayed with a growth accelerant. And Ian warns supermarkets to listen to shoppers and give them what they want: Australian-made aisles.
Consolidating them in an Australian-made, Australian-grown area of a supermarket dedicated to that would be fantastic.
Not a bad idea. What do you think about it? Would it make a difference to the way you shop? Well, you can have your say on our website, yahoo7.com.au/todaytonight.